Welcome to it, sports fans. Episode 13 from the Bleachers with me, MKT. Oh man. So we are on iTunes. People need to know that. The FTB TV podcast from the Bleachers TV podcast. So the FTB TV podcast on iTunes. Subscribe, dislike, send all abuse, all of it. Do all of it on iTunes. The big machine where everyone goes to get all their stuff. It's the only place. So go to iTunes, support, like, share, dislike, throw taunts and abuse. Looking forward to engaging there. FTB TV podcast from the Bleachers TV podcast. Welcome to it. Monday, Cape Town, 26th of November. What a day. It's been a day of interesting things. Obviously on the sports front, what a weekend. So if you're a Springbok fan, Chelsea fan, and it's just not a good weekend. If you support those two teams, it's not good. And then on the cricket front, Ngidi's injured, so he's out the World Cup. I mean, could it go any more wrong if you're a South African fan and you support Chelsea or indeed Man United? Speaking of those two, I'm going to do a review of Mauricio Sarri's sort of tactical approach on the weekend, exactly what I thought is going on at Chelsea. Had my concerns all season. I am indeed a Chelsea fan. So I'm going to discuss my very glaring concerns that I saw outside of the result on Saturday. And then we are going to talk Man United. Once again, it reared its ugly head. Jose Mourinho. So we're going to get into Jose as well. And then the Springboks. We're going to talk about the Springboks. And then we'll end off with my musings about Andy Farrell and all of that shoulder business. So let's get into it. What an awesome weekend. My team's lost, but that's all right. From the Bleachers, thanks for joining me. Remember, we're on iTunes, FTB TV podcast. Go and check it out. Please support, subscribe, like, dislike, abuse once again. Whatever it is that you feel you must do, just engage and give it 15 stars. That's 5 stars 3 times. Anyway, let's get into it. Episode 13. Man, I'm looking forward to this one. As I said, a seriously disappointing weekend. As a Chelsea fan, you've got to say that was abysmal. But before I get into it, having played a bit of sport myself, I've been exposed to guys at the highest level in all sorts of sport, rugby, cricket, and indeed my favorite, football. So in football, like many sport, but let's stick to football, particularly at the back, for individuals, pace is like makeup. So if you've got pace, it's like makeup. And what do I mean by that? It covers all of your blemishes. All those blemishes you've got, ladies and dudes. I know dudes who wear makeup as well, which is cool. It's 2018. But if you've got makeup, it's like all sorts of different makeups. I walk past that and I don't know what's going on. Like base and I don't know. Let me not make a fool of myself. But pace is like makeup. Any fundamental blemishes you've got, you can cover it up. If you're like me, you can transform from a 5 to about a 5.5 just because of makeup. Now in football, if you're fundamentally flawed, particularly at centre-back. So centre-back is about 2 things. You can have no pace and be like John Terry, but still be world-class for 15 years. But there's 2 things that are irreplaceable. And these, if you don't have these in your fundamentals, which is why I don't think Rio Ferdinand was ever right at the top without Nemanja Vidic and the likes. If you don't have positioning, right, and you don't have leadership, so leadership doesn't mean just talking. If you're not able to command the line, if you don't have those 2, and you don't have either to fall back on, pace will always bail you out. When you lose that pace, however, as David Luiz has done, well then, you get Saturday. David Luiz, while he had pace, was the dynamic ball-playing centre-back who could bring the ball out from the back and he could spray those long passes. And then it was worth it because you can tolerate that. But as we saw on Saturday, and it's been my fear since he came back, he was all right under Conte. Then he got the massive injury last season, and Christensen took over. But the issue with David Luiz is that he has lapses in concentration, and without his pace, without his physical powers of recovery, he is a championship centre-back at best. He should be in the championship. Without pace, David Luiz is a championship centre-back. He is not a Premier League centre-back. We saw that on Saturday, and there was no better example than Song Heung-min's goal, in which I do not understand where Luiz is going. Why is he falling for a feint to the byline? Why would Son go to the byline? I mean, he's like 2 feet away from him and he falls for the feint at the Premier League level. Unbelievable. But that showed you a man who is not fundamentally sound. His positioning was off. He was caught square, and he was Brazilian centre-back. That's why Brazil haven't picked him since the World Cup, I think. Like, they saw and they're like, You see, I've spoken about it before, but let me reiterate it once more. David Luiz, at a stage, his production surpassed what we had to tolerate. So you could tolerate the mistakes because those raking long balls, and he'd make those sort of galloping runs from deep, and he would drive the team forward. He's no longer able to do that, and the long balls are gone. That's not because he's a worse player. It's because physically he cannot maintain for 90 minutes whilst giving you the technical side of the game, which is his real strength. His lapses in concentration have always been a part of the game. But now he doesn't have the pace to make up for those, which means I have to tolerate more. But he doesn't give me the long balls and the galloping runs, those bullocking runs from the middle for the overload. So what it means now is that Chelsea are having to tolerate far more than Luiz's production. And that's not sustainable. That just isn't sustainable. Luiz is now too slow. He's not a leader. And his positioning is abysmal. It always has been. But he's been able to recover. Like Rio Ferdinand, Fergie saw it and he was phasing him out. Christensen is ready. If anything, Christensen under Conte was the defender of the year. Ball-playing, classy, clean shorts, Maldini-type centre-back. And I don't understand it. They've just dropped him. It makes no sense to me. So Sarri has really worried me with that. More concerning, though, was the nature of the defeat. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. I remember in about, I think it was 2011, Arsenal at home, the next Jose Mourinho, as they were calling him, Andre Villas-Boas, came to Chelsea, a big reputation, had just done the double, just won the Europa League with Porto. He'd done a mini Mourinho kind of treble, not quite the real thing. But AVB had come in. He had obviously controversially throughout his time, he dropped people like Cole, Essien, Lampard, Drogba. He tried to get a revolution going. But what he did was he changed the formation and he went high line. Now with John Terry as your centre back, you know very well he was a cart horse. But I don't think the Premier League has seen a better position or seen many better centre backs. But in terms of positional play, nobody's been better than Terry. Nobody's been close to Terry, I don't think, in terms of positional play. But in that 5-3 defeat, that is the time that I saw that manager and team were apart. The players were not willing to execute. They were half in, half out. Arsenal popped the ball over the top, and all 5 of those goals were basically simple route 1 balls and Villas-Boas' high line, and the players he had available to him were oil and water. AVB wanted the high line. John Terry wanted that deeper line so he could command the boys from the back and go on the counter-attack. And we know at Chelsea, Terry and co revolted. AVB was history. Di Matteo went on to create history that season. The coach and the team did not look on the same page on Saturday, and that's what really worried me. Forget the result. As a Chelsea fan, what would worry me is I'm concerned that the players aren't executing the manager's instructions. It's supposed to be quick passing and then quickly into the feet of the striker or Hazard, who's the playmaker, and then you attack from there. And then everybody should be pressing high, so that should somebody get the ball of Hazard, it's pressed. It's sort of a gegenpress. The other team doesn't have time to counter or to knock it about. But Spurs had all day. But what's even more concerning, and I think it's clear for everyone to see, there are just too many square pegs in too many round holes. And I'm going to start at the back. I've had a problem with the goalkeeper since the beginning. The goalkeeper is a problema numero uno. Listen here, I've said it to anybody who knows me. If you're under the height of 194, I don't want to see you at goalkeeper. I don't even want to talk to you at goalkeeper. Don't ever even think about it at goalkeeper for me. Under 194, unless you're Iker Casillas or you play in a Pep Guardiola team. Those are the only two exceptions in the history of football. Under 194 for me, so that's about 6'4". I like a 6'5" keeper, but I'll take 6'4". If you're not 6'4", you should not be the Chelsea keeper, and you shouldn't be at a top team. And I'll tell you why. There's been two good examples as to why Arrizabalaga is not the guy. There was the Danny Sturridge finish against Liverpool last minute, and I've always said there's a reason the goalkeepers need to be tall, especially in top class teams. Because against top class teams, you aren't very often going to get lots of attempts on goal. And very often, in order to score, it's going to need to be right in the top corner. The Danny Sturridge effort isn't even in the top corner. It's barely hit the side netting. But the keeper's like 5 centimeters too short. That's crazy. It's mental. He is too short, and he doesn't give you enough as a ball player. He's not Vitor Valdez with his feet, and he's not sort of an Edison. And Edison's not great. I would prefer Vitor Valdez actually with his feet. No one's Neuer, of course. But Arrizabalaga doesn't give you anything with the feet really that I could get that from an average keeper. And he's way too short. That's a worry. Secondly, the goal that Dele Alli scores at the near post, if he's 6'4", that hits him in the face. He doesn't have to put his hands up. It's great delivery. You can't deny that. It's great delivery by Eriksson. But it doesn't matter. If he's 6'4", that ball hits him in the face. It could be a follow-up, could be a clearance. But what I do know is he saves it. But it's gone way above his head. Once again, too short. Simple as that. Short keepers and me, no. If he was Czech or Courtois, that hits him in the face. It wasn't a great header. It's gone just above his head. If he's the right height, no goal. The second concern, and I think this is where the manager is trapped, and this is the problem, as we know. I mean, I'm 32 and I can see it in myself a little bit now. The older people get, the more stubborn they are. The thoughts of older people are calloused. Very few old people can admit that I was wrong. The older you get, the more you are set in your ways. And now he has bought Jorginho and he's sold. Remember, Jorginho was the sort of masterman, the master craftsman in his Napoli team, which blew everybody away. They were so close to the title and played the best football in Europe. But Jorginho's shortcomings were exposed. When Son ran past him, I saw everything. Even Sigurdsson ran past him. And Gylfi Sigurdsson is a wonderful player, but he is the slowest man. In fact, of all the Scandinavian nations, I believe it's confirmed, Sigurdsson is the slowest man of all of those nations. And he couldn't keep up with him. So I think Jorginho has been exposed. He's not a good enough athlete yet to command a place in the English Premier League. Because in the Premier League, yes, technical matters, but if you can't fight because everybody wants to scrap, and there's quality everywhere in the Premier League. You don't get to dominate like in Italy. I mean, there's 3 or 4 teams in Italy, and then generally you're playing at a 4 out of 10, 6 out of 10 pace for most of the teams, for 15 of the teams. But in England, if you're not an athlete, your technical skills should supplement that. And Jorginho isn't ready for the Premier League. But the coach is trapped. He spent big money on him. and he believes in it. So here's the problem with that. Conte is an eyesore at the box-to-box. He is so uncomfortable, which is crazy because he's the best defensive mid in the league. You move him out of place. But Conte is better than Jorginho. Ross Barkley's been better than Jorginho. Barkley's been unbelievable and he can go box-to-box. And then here's the real problem, is that the actual playmaker for Chelsea from deep and the role that Jorginho is playing is Mateo Kovacic. Kovacic, for me, has been Chelsea's player of the season, and it's not even close. And it's not even close. He is the signing of the season, but he's been Chelsea's best player, and it's not close. He's blown everybody out the water, but those three have outperformed Jorginho, but the manager is not willing to give up the possession-based football. Conte has been an eyesore at box-to-box. That really is a concern, how he's going to change that. Is he willing to change? The older we get, the more calcified our thoughts get. The more right we are, and there is no turning back. And Maurizio Sarri is one of the older statesmen of the Premier League. And what really concerned me was that at 3-1, right, Chelsea still had Barkley on, Conte on, and Jorginho on. At 3-1, now I thought he's gonna take off Willian, which was ridiculous. But anyway, he took off Willian and put on a striker, which meant we had the same shape at the end as we had at the beginning at 0-0. That doesn't make sense. You're 3-1 down. What you do is you take off one of the three defensive mids you've got on. Okay, Barkley's box to box. But you can take Jorginho off. It makes no sense. And then, I asked this, I think 2 episodes ago, why can't anybody play 4-4-2? And what I don't understand, with Chelsea, you won't be exposed. If you put Willian out wide, right? You put Willian out wide, you put Pedrinho on the other wing, and then you find a place for Hazard. You either play him up front in the 4-4-2, or he plays in an attacking role in the middle. But you play 4-4-2, and Conte, Kovacic, or Jorginho, and I think it's going to have to be Conte and Kovacic in the midfield too, with Hazard up front with either striker. Why can't that happen? Why can't you just play 4-4-2? What's happened there? Kovacic's class, I think him and Conte are the two for the middle. But my most worrying trend, and this is seriously the most worrying trend, is when he puts Hazard up front. Why would you want to neutralise the best player in the Premier League? Tottenham didn't play well at all, and they ran Chelsea off the park. And that's really scary. And I think if you are a Chelsea fan, you'd be worried about the rigidity of the manager not willing to change the shape. No matter what happened, he stayed with one striker up front. He never at any stage looked like he might put 2 on up front at 2-1 or 3-1. He finished the game with Barkley, Conte, and Jorginho on the field. That has to worry all Chelsea fans, and that does remind me of the rigidity of AVB. That's why I say this game reminded me of AVB's 5-3 loss to Arsenal. This was the way he's going to do it, no matter who the players are that he has. Too many square pegs for too many round holes. Chelsea's real biggest concern from here, I'm afraid if you're a Blues fan, is that Eden Hazard will not tolerate another season without a title because he wants to win the Ballon d'Or and he's turning 28. Roman Abramovich has shown that he always sides with player power, and what I saw on Saturday were players and managers separated. If it stays this way and Mr. Sarri does not change, I'm afraid by Christmas we may have to say arrivederci. Well played to Tottenham. Terrible pitch again. But congratulations to what I think is the youngest, or the best of the young managers in world football, Mauricio Pochettino. Moving from the youngest to the 2 established managers in Manchester. Oh my. You know, I've heard people say to me around the world, time heals all wounds. Right? I've heard this. I'm like, well, what does that even mean? I'm still bitter and angry about stuff that happened 10 years ago. Makes no sense. It's a terrible saying. But I've heard people say it. I don't know how true it is. I don't love it. I'm still really bitter about what happened 10 years ago. I don't know. With my ex-girlfriend. I don't know. I'm bitter with something. I'll have to meditate. Time heals all wounds, people say. I've heard it. I don't buy into it. But I'm going to go back to May 2016. What happened in May 2016? There was a Manchester football revolution. At the time, of course, the contemporary managers of their time. Jose Mourinho, Pep Guardiola, of course, the sensation from Catalonia, who had revolutionized football with what he's called tiki-taka. Jose Mourinho, of course, had gone on to win trebles at Inter Milan, Champions League title. He'd done something that nobody has ever done at Inter Milan, and he revolutionized the history of that club. But in 2016, they both arrived in Manchester. One to much fanfare, the other, Sir Bobby Charlton wasn't keen. And let's just say most of the red half of Manchester was less than pleased. But let's go through their timelines. So I'll start with who have they signed in that time. Right, I'm just going to give you their marquee signings. Jose Mourinho at Manchester United has signed 9 marquee signings. That's Pogba, Ibrahimovic, Mkhitaryan, who has since left, Bailly, Sanchez, Matic, Lukaku, Lindelof, and recently Fred. That's 9 marquee signings for Jose Mourinho. Pep signed Stones, Jesus, Sane, Gundogan, Edison, Bernardo Silva, Walker, Mendy, Laporte, and recently former player of the season, Riyad Mahrez. So that's 10 marquee signings for Pep Guardiola. Manchester United on Saturday drew at home at the Theatre of Dreams with 16th placed Crystal Palace. Now, what should concern United fans is nobody batted an eyelid. It's like, oh, United drew. Oh, okay. Who'd they play? Palace at home. Oh. Like, seriously, that was the overwhelming feeling, right? Nobody was outraged. It's like, oh. Crystal Palace, 16th place, Old Trafford, Pogba, Bailly, Sanchez, Matic, Lukaku, Lindelof, Fred. All available. Unbelievable. But nobody said a thing. And if Van Aanholt didn't have a chocolate right leg, and he could actually shoot like a professional should be able to, Man United would have lost that game. It was an absolute sitter, and he's missed it. Absolute sitter, and he's missed it. Man United rightfully should have lost that game. Managed to rewatch that game this morning. My goodness, they're dreadful. Jose Mourinho plays the most boring football. And why doesn't he start Rashford? These are the questions I'm hearing from everyone. Rashford's the guy. But anyway, on the other side, Manchester City at West Ham, 4-0, game never in question. Jose Mourinho had called out his players for lacking character before the game. The likes of Rashford, the likes of Shaw, Martial. And he got what he really had criticized the guys for, a characterless performance. My question to Jose Mourinho, if I could speak to him, and Man United fans, is how does he see this going? He's already alienated the club's record signing. He's already alienated the club's captain. And the fans are not happy. They're not winning, and they're not happy with the style. And I'm afraid, Jose, you've always had a lack of style, but you were winning before. Fans you can always mask it over if you win. Fans aren't happy, You've alienated the club captain, and their record signing, Paul Pogba, I think it's no secret that there is no love lost there. My real question for Man United, and I'd love to know what fans think, is why are they delaying the sacking of Jose Mourinho? Like, where do you see this going? And people might say, yes, it's not the United way to sack during the season. I say, look at this. 3 seasons later, after 13 games, so that's 1-3, not 30. After 13 games in the season, Manchester United are 14 points behind Manchester City. I'm going to let that sink in. Wonderful. 14 points after 13 games adrift. There are 7 points. That's right, 7 points after 13 games off the top 4. I mean, where do United see this going? Because the reason I say just sack Mourinho now is you give the manager, the new manager, time to actually have a look at these players in his own setup, and then you can go and sell in the window. But what I don't see is Mourinho staying, because are you going to sell Rashford, Shaw, Pogba, Valencia, Bailly, and Sanchez? You can't sell all the players. You can't sell, and I mean, I'm looking at Rashford in his prime, I'm looking at Shaw in his prime, I'm looking at Pogba in his prime, and Pogba can't go because he is the golden goose for Adidas. Valencia can still do a job. Bailly, who knows what happened there. And then Alexis Sanchez, I mean, he's prime time. I don't know. I mean, it's with Sanchez, I would give the manager a break because it seems he's the problem. It can't be both Arsenal and Man United. He's a problem. You know, he's the common denominator. But are you going to sell Rashford, Shaw, Pogba, Valencia, Bailly, and Sanchez? And if your answer is no to that, then sack the manager and move on, because now it's getting embarrassing. It's actually getting cringeworthy for everybody involved. And I think the sad part is that Jose Mourinho is being exposed as the old school manager who just can't connect with the young kids. And that's huge. That's huge, because back in the day, Jose likes the old players, and old players can take criticism. And the great thing about older players is they can take coaching. Remember, the younger, you can call them, is it the millennials? The Pogbas, Martial, these types of guys, is that they want to ask why. You must explain to them why they must do certain things. The younger kids have YouTube, they have Google at their fingertips. So it's a new generation now, and they'll ask why. A guy like Jose Mourinho, he doesn't like that. You do this like this at this time. You fit in or you have to get out. That's how Jose Mourinho has always worked. And for young people who want to ask why, Jose Mourinho cannot work with that. We've seen that. I'm not making that up. He's never been able to work with young players consistently. And here he is again, struggling with the millennials. And here's the big problem as well. Thinking medium picture, if United don't get the top 4 this season, what top manager is going to come to Manchester United? Because you've got to think of that as well. But if you give him the chance now and you say, right, you are our guy, maybe an Eddie Howe, maybe it's time to pay your £15 million to Bournemouth, bring Eddie Howe in now, and he's your guy for 5 years regardless what happens. Because the one thing you know you're going to get with Eddie Howe is style. There's no defensive football there. So with Jose Mourinho, sack him now, because then you give your manager time. You've still got plenty of time to try and get in the top 4. Even if you don't get in the top 4, you've got your number 1 target manager locked in now. Because get to the end of the season and the guy you're looking for, you don't get the top 4, then what's the incentive for Eddie Howe? He might as well just stay at Bournemouth. What's the incentive for Pochettino? He's going to be in the top 4. What is the incentive? Because remember, Man United have been bad now. It's going to be the 6th season running. 2013 is a long, long, long time ago. And what I think people don't realize is to recover from mediocrity. This is just another year where they sink back further into becoming the modern day Liverpool. And remember, if you're the fans, the failures are only amplified because across the road, what you used to call the noisy neighbors are building a palace now, and they've got a golden statue, and they've got a fountain that shoots water 300 meters in the air. Pep has enjoyment, panache, and quality. At Old Trafford, attack, attack, attack was always the call. But I'm afraid, give him the sack, give him the sack, give him the sack, should be the call. Will the board listen? I highly doubt it. Manchester United are in a tailspin, and I'm not sure whether Ed Woodward is the man to get them out of it. In closing, I have no idea why they are delaying Jose Mourinho's situation, because he has never turned around. Once it's gone sour with Jose, it only gets worse. If you need to see what I'm talking about, get on the internet. Google Cristiano Ronaldo and Jose Mourinho. In the tunnel, they couldn't stand next to each other for the last year and a half of Mourinho's time at Real Madrid. If you're not a Manchester United fan, I'm sure you're enjoying the downfall of the mighty. If you are, you must be concerned, and you should be asking, why don't they sack him now? I never call for a man's job, but it makes no sense. The die is cast now, and you can't sell all the players. And if you can't sell all the players, get rid of the manager. It's not working. Speaking of not working, oh my goodness. If anybody watched the rugby, how poor was that? If you're a Springboks fan, how poor was that? Surprised? Not at all. But let me take you what I saw. And I saw it early on. The ball was skipped past to Pieter-Steph du Toit. The World Breakout Player of the Year was waiting on the wing. 2-man overlap. But what followed was absolutely, quintessentially what the Springbok team is. In the next few seconds, Pieter-Steph du Toit tried to absolutely brutally run over the player. Janji was left with his hands on his head as he watched Pieter-Steph du Toit step on the touchline. Never was there a more representative moment of exactly what the Springboks are right now. Brute was chosen over smarts and efficiency. Pieter-Steph du Toit tried to bulldoze the guy when he had a 2-man overlap, and all he had to do was straighten, draw, pass. Now, if you've played touch rugby at the age of 6, they teach you that. But Pieter-Steph du Toit chose brute over smart. Smart and efficiency. That's modern day rugby. All you have to do is run straight, draw your man, pass. Straight, draw, pass. But no, Pieter-Steph du Toit tried to absolutely steamroll the player and was cleverly pushed into touch. Efficiency over brawn. My biggest concern has now and has always been since Rassie Erasmus came in, that in 2018, if you think you're going to pick a pack where your loose trio is Duane Vermeulen, Pieter-Steph du Toit, and Siya Kolisi as your loose trio, you're kidding. There is no creativity, there is no dynamism, there isn't a fetcher in there. All of those are unbelievably similar, boring, lumbering players. That's all they are. All three of those guys, in reality, are blindside flankers. Duane Vermeulen 5 years ago, maybe he's a number 8. But now he's a blindside flank. He no longer has the pace nor the dynamism, or he's never had the skills. He's never had the skills. I don't know why people have been Duane Vermeulen crazy. I've never loved him. But he used to be, when he's at his physical peak, he was a brute force. A brute force. But now he's just another guy because he's not as strong as he was at his peak. And that's it. If he doesn't have that, he has nothing else. But Duane Vermeulen has nothing outside of brute strength. Kolisi is a blindside flank. Not particularly dynamic, strong in the tackle, great work rate. I mean, his tackle count's always going to be through the roof, but he can't steal it at the breakdown, and he doesn't really give you much in terms of the offload. So it's copy-paste. You have two of the same players in Kolisi and Vermeulen. Pieter-Steph du Toit is a lock. Pieter-Steph du Toit is a lock. Don't tell me about one performance against All Blacks. Just because he can tackle, it doesn't make you a flank. He's a lock. He can't get to the breakdown, and his ball carrying is ineffective. He needs to be in the tight because we can use his size in there. He's explosive. I'll give that to him. He's a freakish athlete. But he's a lock. He's far too slow to play flank in the modern day. He's far too slow. So none of your loose forwards are ever going to get to the breakdown before theirs. And what you're saying is Marx is our fetcher, but Marx can't do his job. So that's another problem, is Marx can't throw in the line out and he can't hook. But my biggest problem is, when you want to really amplify this issue, it's like, okay, we know how you win in modern day rugby is your bench has to change the game. Well, you bring some dynamic guys off the bench, surely. Eben Etzebeth and Francois Lowe. Those are your impact players off the bench. Somehow your pack gets slower. How do you bring guys on off the bench and your pack's slower? Your pack's slower with the guys you're bringing off the bench. Less dynamic, less creative, more brawn, bigger, lumbering. How does that happen in we're in 2018? And I think here's the big reason why Rassie's game is struggling. I think Rassie's trapped. He can't pick Elton Jantjies because Jantjies can't defend. But Jantjies is the best number 10, pure number 10 in South Africa. He is the only man with game control. So Jantjies can control tempo and he can tactical kick. The problem, and I'm afraid this is probably why he has to move to inside center with the current fly half, is he's a tactical disaster. He can't control a game. He doesn't know how to territorially kick. So if he's kicking, it's always into their hands and it's never at the right time. And infuriatingly, is he carries the ball in, does Pollard, and he dies with the ball in contact all the time. So any support runner is eliminated because what he's looking to do is break the line all the time, instead of making the ball available for runners left and right. I mean, the Springboks don't supply the greatest support runners, but my goodness is Pollard poor. Move him to inside center. He loves a crash ball. But he can't dictate the game, and you need your fly half to control the tempo, because what you need is he needs to give you the shape. If your number 10 doesn't give you shape, then nobody knows where they're going. And you saw it every time Elton Jantjies comes on, it feels like the forwards get more involved. It feels like everybody gets more involved because Elton is playing flat and he's making sure that everybody knows where they are, either through communication or great decision making. And Elton makes his decisions early. If we're going wide, you can see that early. He doesn't make the decisions when the ball's in his hands. It scares me to say this, but the amount of times that Pollard nullified overlaps, there were 2 stonewall tries, and he throws a skip pass. Draw, pass, draw, pass. Straight, draw, pass. That's simple rugby. Pollard threw 2 double skip passes where we had a 3-man overlap. 2 certified tries. One either side of the half. And here's the real issue. I think the Springboks only have one real skill player because neither of the centers can distribute the ball, and the only threat the Boks have is out wide. Jantjie, Nkosi, and Nkosi unfortunately got injured on the weekend. So Jantjie was our only real threat with ball in hand. And we can't get him the ball. We don't have the skills to get the ball from fly half to both centers to the wing. Neither of our centers straighten, so I'm not too sure what they're doing there. Lende can't straighten. That's very concerning at this level. And then he can't distribute. You have to be able to do one of the two. You're either a distributor or you're just the thumper guy. And he's neither. And Jesse Creel, the less said about him, the better. The Springboks have one skilled player in their entire team. Warren Whiteley is the one, but I don't think they like him. They lack size. I think Whiteley's out. What you've got to say is to the Welsh, you absorbed the pressure. In the first 20 minutes, it looked like the Springboks were going to blow them away with brute force. The Welsh absorbed the pressure. The Millennium Stadium crowd came with them. Congratulations to the Welsh. And to the Springboks, well, welcome to the 90s again. We're back in the 90s. So that's what you'll get at the World Cup. C'est la vie. We'll keep supporting them. To the Welsh, congratulations. And I think I can say safely, as a Springbok fan, I am delighted the season's over. Just my last musing on a situation which is getting out of hand. Absolutely ridiculous. This Farrell situation is getting out of hand. But it's becoming a bigger issue than just what he's doing on the pitch, because already the game is struggling with safety and parents wanting their kids to get away from rugby. And then he goes and does that twice on TV, international big games. I thought, Esterhuizen's the hit on Esterhuizen for the Springboks is a red card. I mean, Esterhuizen said some things when he was younger. I find it very difficult to have any empathy for him. I don't think he should be in the Springbok setup. But anyway, that's an opinion call, whatever. The past is the past. He's in the Springbok team now. That hit on Esterhuizen is a red card. That is a stonewall red card. What I don't understand about rugby is they've almost completely eliminated the referee anyway. With the amount of TMO calls that they make. Why don't you make that call? You've got the tech. Okay, fine. You choose not to make that call. South Africa lose the game. It wasn't the reason the Springboks lost the game. They blew it in the first 15 minutes. But that's a bona fide red card. Okay, but fine. You missed that Stonewall. But to miss the Australia one with all of the technology Jaco Peyper and co have is inexcusable. What I don't understand is they overuse technology for things like forward passes. They're happy to look at the forward pass 5 times, even if it doesn't lead to a try, which is weird. But this, where the guy's clearly through, and all he has to do is fall over the line, Farrell has not only blindsided him, but it is such a clear shoulder charge. And those are the ones that are dangerous, because not only on the hit is it dangerous, but when you hit a guy like that and you blindside him, is you knock him down, that's when you get the dislocated shoulders. Because a guy that size running, being blindsided, you almost jackknife into the ground. I've seen a few of those where guys have been blindsided and they jackknife themselves, and it's it's the squeezed neck or the popped shoulder. So for me, Farrell's becoming a problem far bigger than just, is he cheating? Are they overprotecting him because he's England's captain? That's conspiracy theory. What is certifiable, though, is he is a threat upon the game for the youngsters, because more people are already taking their kids away from rugby, saying safety is an issue. When you've got the captain of England behaving like that, we have a problem. I mean, lastly, logically, ref, there is no ways a 90-kilogram man is stopping a 115-kilogram guy in that situation if you're just looking at the angles quite simply. There's no ways. Besides the horse collar tackle, which is illegal, there's no ways Farrell should be able to stop the guy there. RB, it's embarrassing. Sort it out, because it's becoming a mess, and we want the youngsters continuing to play the game. We don't want parents taking their kids away because we can't keep the kids safe. Absolutely shocking. Farrell has been, he's always had that nasty edge to him, but now it's been too heinous. Absolutely heinous. How he hasn't got a suspension for either is despicable. So those are my musings on that. And that is from the Bleachers this week, or today. Looking forward to coming back tomorrow. We've got plenty more this week. I cannot wait. That was an awesome episode. A little bit of rugby at the end there. And if you're a Springbok fan, the season is over, not to worry. So looking forward to chatting tomorrow. For now, have a good one. See you on the other side.